بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Yesterday we were speaking about the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the migration. Just one correction. For some reason I kept saying that Ammar bin Yasir, and possibly because I was speaking about Sumayya radiallahu ta'ala anha being the son. The Sahabi in question that came from affluency, etc., was Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu ta'ala. For some reason I was saying Ammar bin Yasir. When I went back to the room, and then it just sort of dawned upon me that I don't know what I was saying, but possibly because I was speaking about Sumayya radiallahu ta'ala anha. Anyways, so the hijrah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way that the hijrah takes place is, as we mentioned, at the age of 53, or just after the age of 53, where the Muslims are given permission to migrate, and this migration as a permission was given separately to the companions and separately to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning that some companions migrated before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so there were a couple Sahaba that migrated first. They were then joined, including Ammar bin Yasir. Ammar bin Yasir migrated initially, and he went to Madinah al-Munawwara, and there he began to teach the people some elements of Islam. And later on, first Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala an, along with 20 odd companions, joined Ammar bin Yasir in Madinah al-Munawwara. So this was in stages. So some Sahabis migrated. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was informed of the migration by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not for himself initially. This was first for the rest of the companions, and then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's migration, there are many sort of facets to the migration. The actual night itself, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam leaves his residence, the journey to Madinah al-Munawwara, some incidents that occur on that journey, and the reception that the Prophet ﷺ receives when he reaches Madinah al-Munawwara. All of them, they're worthy of discussion themselves. So the Prophet ﷺ is informed in a dream that he is to migrate by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala an, he relates the incident. He says, I was sitting with my family at home, and the Prophet ﷺ came to my house seeking permission to enter at a time when he generally didn't visit. That's the first thing that stood out. And the second thing is the Prophet ﷺ was covering his head, almost as if he was hiding. He didn't want people to see, alayhi salatu wassalam. So I gave, the Prophet ﷺ was allowed to enter, and he then asked that, whoever is with you, tell them to leave. I need to speak to you in private. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, nobody else is here in the household except for the family. So the Prophet ﷺ then said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has now given me the permission to migrate to Madinah al-Munawwara. And now, as the rest of the companions have been migrating, Allah has given me the permission as well. And this coincided with the final decision of the Quraysh to actually assassinate the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So after they ran that particular idea of each one member from each. Okay, no worries. So the chieftains agreed that one person from each member tribe would assist in the assassination of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they decided on the particular night, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thus informed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that an attempt is going to be made on your life. It is better now for you, but you should now migrate and leave Makkah al-Mukarramah and go to Madinah al-Munawwara and join the rest of the Muslims that are already there to establish Islam and to establish the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freely, without the obstruction that you're finding here. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam informs Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and he responds by saying, Asuhbatun, will I be honored with the permission to accompany you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam affirms in the positive that yes, inshallah, you will accompany me on this journey. And so Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala immediately says that I have two she camels, inshallah, we will use them to make the journey. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, only if you accept payment for that journey on that mount. because that's the mode of transport, almost as if you could say like Uber or taxi. It was like taking that. So the Prophet ﷺ was particular that fine, I will use this mount. He didn't have a mount of his own, but it will be something that I pay for. So the Prophet ﷺ then leaves, and Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala begins the preparation of the mount, of the provisions. Asma radiallahu ta'ala anha, one of the daughters of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala an, prepares some food for the journey, prepares some provisions, and to tie, she's known as the nitaqatain, the one with two portions of the cloth. And the reason for that is to tie the provisions onto the actual camel. She rips up a part of the scarf that she had, and she ties that onto the mount. And so Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam leave for Madinah al-Munawwara at night. Okay, and this happens just prior to the Quraysh coming to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what they had intended is they were going to surround the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after surrounding the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would leave, they would then attack the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, just prior to leaving, they surrounded the house, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as being informed, he then instructed Ali karramallahu wajhahu that, ya Ali, that these people have now decided that they're going to take my life, so I need to leave, and I want you to rest in my place. If somebody looks in through the window, then they'll see somebody lying there, and they'll think that someone's there. They won't come in. They'll wait until the morning, and by that time, I would have had a good head start. So Ali radiallahu ta'ala immediately he said, of course, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no problem. And the fuqaha, they mentioned, the muhaddithun, they mentioned that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, obviously, he is now sleeping in the place of someone, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon who others are attempting to take his life. So naturally, there would have been some fear that you are sleeping as the person who's the intention of being assassinated. So the people are outside, they're ready, and so there would have been some anxiety or some sort of apprehension, one would have thought. But Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says that night's sleep I never experienced again in my life. It was the most comforting sleep that I had. So he knows that people are standing outside, but he says that I experienced sleep like never before. Put my head down, and subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me such comfort in the bed of someone who's going to be assassinated. Also, from the account of the journey, we find the Prophet ﷺ, you could ask, the Prophet ﷺ could have placed something else there. Why did he place a person in his place? And the reason for that is the Prophet ﷺ gave a second instruction to Ali radiallahu ta'ala. And the second instruction was that when you wake up in the morning and you come outside and they see you, lots of people from these very same people are going to come and say, we had given some amana to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so this is this person's amana, this is this person's amana, this is this person's amana. And so what that means is, despite being in their eyes an arch enemy of theirs, they did not like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they now intended to assassinate the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But despite this enmity, they knew how trustworthy the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. And this sifat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam of being trustworthy was so ingrained in them that despite them considering Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an enemy, they left the amana with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, the second thing, that in the case of somebody else, if you were told that somebody is going to attempt on your life and you have their amana, you'd say, oh, okay, good, I have your 10,000 pounds. You're never going to see that again. You're going to try and kill me? I'm going to take your money with me. I'm going to take everything that you've left with me, and I'm going to go, because you're trying to kill me. So subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ not only was trustworthy, but he ensured that there was a way for these people to get their amana back after they try and kill him. That is a unique characteristic that only the Prophet ﷺ possessed. His ability to overlook somebody else's injustice towards him. That at that moment, the Prophet ﷺ could have even used that as a bargaining tool and sent someone and said to them that if you come after me, I have your amana. If you try to take my life, I have your amana. Think twice about it. But no, the Prophet ﷺ made no mention of it. Instead, he made the provisions that Ali, this belongs to such and such a person. He's probably going to be standing outside. His family is going to come afterwards for this. Their family is going to come for this. So make sure you give back everything that belongs to whoever it belongs to. A unique display of trustworthiness from the Messenger ﷺ. One of the freed slaves, Amir ibn Fuhayra of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, is then tasked with accompanying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, and bringing what he would do in the daytime is stay around the Quraysh, listen to what they were saying, and then in the evening he would bring some sheep as if he was going out with the herd, knowing where the Prophet. So where was the Prophet? We're going to come to that. Knowing where the Prophet is, he would bring some sheep. So daily they would be able to drink some fresh milk, etc. Okay. So where did the Prophet go? The Prophet was made aware immediately after leaving the house that the Quraysh, when the incident is very interesting as well. How did the Prophet escape if they're surrounding the house? It comes in some books of tafsir. The Prophet he walked right by them. And the way he did that, it's mentioned in some books of tariq, is that the Prophet ﷺ took hold of some soil, and before opening the door, threw it in their direction, and read the verse, وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about veils and the eyes being covered. And after he threw this in their direction, the Prophet ﷺ walks right by them. When the Quraysh wake up in the morning, and again, this journey of travel is now an arduous one. It's long. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's the desert heat. And so you cannot just, the Prophet ﷺ is on camelback. When the Quraysh come to pursue, and they will come to pursue, they're going to be on horseback. So they will be able to catch up to the Prophet. So the Prophet ﷺ doesn't just leave and try the luck that I'll keep journeying, and wherever we get to, inshallah, we'll deal with it there. The Prophet ﷺ, he strategizes how to make this move from Makkah al-Mukarramah to Madinah al-Munawwarah. And the first is that they would use the coastal line, that they wouldn't use the normal road or the path that was used between the cities of Makkah and Madinah al-Munawwarah. And so if they decided to try and follow the Prophet ﷺ over there, they would be empty-handed. So the Prophet ﷺ, for this, he actually, alayhi salatu wasalam, with Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, they appointed a local guide. The local guide was a polytheist from the Quraysh. He was not a believer. He did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he also possessed the quality of being truthful and honorable. And it teaches a valuable lesson that being a non-Muslim doesn't mean that you don't possess, or a person doesn't possess, good qualities. And it also, this is not from this story, but the understanding is that being a mu'min doesn't necessarily means that you possess good qualities as well. Understand? So a Muslim can have very bad qualities, and a non-Muslim can have exemplary and very good morals and etiquette in terms of trustworthiness, truthfulness, not lying, etc. Yesterday, actually, we received an email today from one of the local neighbors. And I don't even know if I want to address this anymore because it's so sad. But obviously, yesterday was busy. There were lots of people in the area for the 27th night. So at night either, and I'm not sure whether it was, I'm presuming it was Isha time, someone had parked incorrectly in front of the person's house, so the person came to challenge them. Older person, elderly. And this, mashallah, this brother, whoever it was, who was going to come now to read Salah in the masjid and worship Allah, physically threatens this person, threatens his family, and says, I'm going to come back later at night and do your house over as well. The akhlaq. It's not from the akhlaq of a Muslim. It's not how a Muslim. So that's why I said you can have Muslims that have no akhlaq at all, and here the Prophet ﷺ entrusts with what? The information of where he's hiding, alayhi salatu wasalam, to someone who doesn't believe in Allah. And you're going to be our guide all the way to Madinah al-Munawwarah. He accompanies the guide, Amir ibn Fuhayra,
And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala accompanied the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the journey. He's not even Muslim, but he has good qualities, good etiquettes. And Muslims sometimes tend to forget this. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once a Jewish person came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam along with another companion, and they presented their case, their dispute in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they said, Ya Rasulullah, the Sahabi said, we take you to be the most truthful, the most just. You decide who is correct and incorrect. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam listens to the case of both the defense and the argument against, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives the verdict for the Jewish person. So some Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, this is a Muslim. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, but he is wrong. He may be a Muslim, but in this case, the right belongs to this person. So I can't judge against that. So the Prophet ﷺ then travels on this journey to Madinah al-Munawwara. To get to the coastal line, he travels to a mountainous area named Thawr, the cave of Thawr. And many people that go for Umrah or Hajj, part of the ziyarat is to go to that area. Sometimes there's too many buses, so they drive by and they don't stop. Sometimes they stop and you're allowed to see. But the Prophet ﷺ, he traveled through this cave named Cave Thawr. So again, when we travel now, even to Thawr, we're traveling on paved streets. You have to take yourself back, and it's probably that there was no flat land. It was probably mountainous all the way. And in this region where Thawr is, the Prophet ﷺ camped out and he hid there for 3 nights. So they actually placed a huge bounty on the Prophet ﷺ's head. That one of those bounties, dead or alive, however you bring Muhammad ﷺ back to us, you will be rewarded with numerous amounts of humur al-ni'am, with red camels, a huge commodity in that time. So there was almost daily pursuits and people looking out using the different methods that they had of looking at footprints, as using animals, however they could, that whoever found, they're going to get lucky. They're going to make a lot of money. Suraka bin Ju'asham, radiyallahu ta'ala an, he says that I noticed Amir bin Fuhaira. He was coming at night, he was going back, with something strange going on. And I knew he was the freed slave of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala. So then I caught whiff, I understood what's happening. He's going to meet these 2 individuals that have fled. So he said, I came back, people asked me, do you know? I said, I don't know anything. That money. So he told the rest of the group, I don't know anything, nothing. I've heard of nothing, no new secret, nothing. And he said, when the majlis finished, I quickly rushed home. I told myself, get me my horse. And I took a spear. And in that same line that Amir ibn Fuhaira went, I followed and I went. And by this time, the Prophet ﷺ, the 3 nights had ended, he had started his journey. So I, using my navigating skills, managed to see them at a distance. The Prophet ﷺ was one without worry. When he understood that he was divinely protected, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Suraka, he says, the Prophet ﷺ just would look forward and walk, and Abu Bakr would continuously, this way and that way, just checking, is anybody following? But the Prophet ﷺ wasn't bothered. The Prophet ﷺ was just continuously going. So Suraka bin Ju'asham, he says that I tried to pursue at a distance, and all of a sudden my horse stopped and its knees went they bent, and I flew over the horse. My spear dropped, everything, and I thought, hey, that's strange. So before I mounted the horse again, I drew lots, and this was a practice that they used to have, that I had certain spears in my quiver, and one of them was for good luck, one bad luck. So if I pulled one that showed good luck, then I knew whatever I was doing was good, and the other one would show that was bad luck. So I quickly tried, and it came out bad. So I thought, that's strange. And it's okay, this is a lot of money. So he said, I pulled the horse back up, and I sat on top, and I went again. And this time, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala noticed me. But he goes, as I drew near, something strange happened. The first time the horse, its knees just buckled and it sort of went down. This time the ground opened up and the front of the horse went into the ground. So it wasn't just that the horse is not, this is something different now. And then when I had pulled my quiver, for the spear from the quiver, the fact that it showed no, it's not a good thing, I realized that this person is on the haqq. This person is divinely protected. And so I came, and there's more to it before he comes to that realization. He tries to pull the horse out, and there's a smoke that arises in front of him. And he comes to this realization. Then he tells Abu Bakr, I mean no threat. And the Prophet ﷺ, I mean no threat. And the Prophet ﷺ, there's a lovely incident that happens. He actually addresses Suraka. That, Ya Suraka, what will you do when you have, or what will be of your state when you have the bracelets of Chosroes around your hand? And he's looking at the Prophet ﷺ, what is the Prophet ﷺ talking about? What is he saying? And so Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the Prophet ﷺ give him an audience, and he says, look, I'm going to be honest, I've come to collect the ransom, the bounty on your head, but I've realized that I can't do anything. I mean you no harm. Here's the plan. He then tells the plan that the Quraysh are searching in this area, the Quraysh are searching in this area, they're looking for you here, because he was worried. What he had just experienced with the horse, he thought, if this Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam makes some sort of dua against me, what's going to happen to me? So he's worried. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, that's fine. He says, here, you want some food of mine? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused. Abu Bakr refused. You want some provisions? Nothing. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, just do one thing. When you go back, don't tell anybody that you met us. Don't tell anybody that you met us. Now, some may ask, what's that random statement that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made? That what will be of your fate when you see the Chosroes, the emperor's brands, his bangles around your hand. So it comes in some books of Tariq that in the reign of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, when Islam expanded, and this empire that the Prophet ﷺ was referring to was felled, and the war booty was brought back to Madinah al-Munawwara, and what the process would be, that all the booty would be bought inside the masjid and put there, and then it would be distributed according to what has been stipulated in the Holy Quran. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ قُلِ الْأَنْفَالُ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ, etc., etc. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala comes and he starts looking around, and he says, everything is in here. So I said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, we bought everything. He starts doing a second round, looking. He says, I can't see everything. So he says, what do you mean? Are you saying that one of us has done khiyana and we've taken something? He says, I don't know what's happened, but something's missing. So they said, what's missing? So Umar radiallahu ta'ala continues to look. And you can imagine, this is an entire empire. So amount of stuff that would have come. And then he says, now I see. And he pulls out 2 bracelets. And he says, this is what the Prophet ﷺ promised Suraka bin Jasham. That what will be of your state when the bangles of the Chosroes are around your hand. So where is Suraka? This is his amana. This belongs to him. This is from what the Prophet ﷺ foretold at the time of Hijrah. So the Prophet ﷺ, as mentioned yesterday, leaves on a Monday, and the Monday afterwards the Prophet ﷺ reaches Madinah al-Munawwara, and obviously there's a huge reception, and inshallah we'll cut short, a very short of time today. Anyways, the intention was to read much through, and I guess we're getting a bit carried out and we're staying still on the Bi'tha. There's lots of information. So from tomorrow, inshallah, I'm just going to read more than talk, inshallah. So at the age of 53, the Holy Prophet ﷺ began the migration from Mecca to Madinah al-Munawwara on a Monday, with 8 days remaining in Madinah in Rabiul Awwal, and also entered Madinah al-Munawwara on a Monday. Sorry, not after 8 days, but with 8 days remaining in Rabiul Awwal. He resided there for a full 10 years before passing away, alayhi salatu wassalam. So 53 years of his life is in Makkah al-Mukarramah, 13 of those as a Prophet of Allah, and the final 10 years of his life, he passes away at the age of 63, or in Madinah al-Munawwara. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, the next discussions are his battles, his expeditions. So we're going to read through that a bit more quicker, inshallah. There's lots of good chapters, his characteristics, alayhi salatu wassalam, physical, his names, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has summoned onto him, his morals. So if we have a few days left, let's try and get as much as possible, inshallah, in the next couple of days. There's less pressure in Taraweeh as well now, so inshallah we don't need to finish early. So inshallah tomorrow we'll carry on with that. Allah give me the understanding, all of you the understanding. وآخر الدعوة الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا.